far too often in this country when it comes to weighing the two, we fall into the left. And that is my concern. If we let the polarization of our words stop us from viewing the real connotation behind these lines. So today, let's head back to the classroom and learn to unlearn implicit bias carried in our linguistics. First, we'll approach redefining our personal dictionary. For next, learning on removing the implicit biases carried through our fears. And finally, addressing and exploring perspectives unlike our own and landing on some conclusions. So, class, go ahead and take out your personal dictionary. I see some hands, not many though. You probably didn't know you had one. To be fair, I didn't either. So, what is this magical book I'm holding then? Well, no one can really see. Outside of my maybe-inspired delusion, personal dictionaries, defined by your screen. Innovator reader.
Are the manifestations of our environments through language we deem acceptable. Given the state we live in, our toleration for differences is divisive and non-existent. One key example, of course, is LGBTQ+ terminology. In 2021, the Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network reported more than 80% of LGBTQ+ students felt unsafe or unaccepted in their academic environments. Many of them not feeling comfortable using language like pronouns that identified who they were as a person. And the same goes for Black America, in which an Indeed survey conducted in April of this year revealed that over 44% of Black people in the workforce felt it was necessary to use code switching to change their manner of speaking, to keep their position at work, and appear professional. The reality is that we're finding gender norms or professionalism, we often discriminate based on appearances and language. Oftentimes, languages and cultures that are not our own are rejected as nonsense, considered lower class, or deemed outright immoral. Implicit bias carried in our acceptance of language to be the defining factor of how we choose to do our peers. Now, I know you're not ready for this, but y'all ready for Innovative Interview Part 2? If you only ever stand on stone,
Hope you can hear me before. If you only ever stand on stone, you'll never know what it's like to walk among roses. This morning? Okay. You know what? I gotta finish the speech. But really, as corny as it may be, we oftentimes have our beliefs set in stone and refuse to acknowledge the beauty of connection. Oftentimes, discrimination that we let embed inside our bodies and our minds stops us from viewing others as equals, and instead, it's just that, others. Where is that rooted? Well, in our fears. That's the root word of all evil, if we're being honest here. Fear. It's a tight grip that serves to control populations. We fear what we don't understand, and for many, we're being capable of understanding without a will. Now, call me crazy, but I'll go out on a limb here and say babies aren't born racist. Whoa! I mean, you see the way they look at you in the supermarket. Little devils. But I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. However, that doesn't mean they aren't negligent to noticing differences. Come on now, people. Take out your dictionaries again. This time opening up to the, got some listeners here, implicit bias section, or really developmental bias section. We should pay close attention to the impact language has on developmental bias. Specifically, communications between infants and adults sets up positive and negative understandings through things like gestures and tone. But equally, this is where we can begin to expect bias to mold around their environments. Ashanka Anderson and Jacqueline Doge, two practicing pediatricians, took note of this in their articles, Talking to Children About Racial Bias, in which the two concluded bias develops in 3 key stages. First, between birth and 6 months, infants become aware of racial differences. Between the ages of 2 and 4, they begin to internalize racial bias. And well, merely by the age of 12, children have solidified beliefs on race and culture. However, more often than not, this solidification is that of hatred. Ignorance of another's existence, or outright denial of their humanity. This is referred to as otherization, a vicious process in which people lose their identity in a society that refuses to accept them. Clint Crowe of the Canadian Museum for Human Rights illustrates the us versus them narrative woven throughout our history and woven throughout our language. Because, well, it was us versus them when white settlers over the plight of Native Americans on their new land, right? Yeah, it was us versus them. When America sought to target the LGBTQ+, as if it was the sole cause of the AIDS and HIV epidemic. Because they were, right? Right? And it was us versus them. When the color of skin seemed to become the predeterminant for criminals and connecting fabric of our communities to the words that would inspire their genocides. Just look at what happened in Mosul. Next, Benedict, Ryan Gaynor, Trayvon Martin, the thousands of dead Palestinian children, men and women. And you just have to wonder, what makes them so different? See, that's where fear gets in. What happens when you let them in? Do they turn your children into drag queens? Does letting them into your neighborhoods raise the crime rates? Does letting them into this country bring in terrorists? The answer is no. Instead, I think it actually brings us closer to some solutions, to peace. But first, we have to explore some perspectives that might not be our own. I remember the first time I lost my peace. When the color of my skin became a reminder. I was then my 5th grade elementary homeroom class, maybe 5 years old, 10 years old. A little boy walked up to me and said the words that didn't belong in his mouth. I mean, we all know them. As if I was a puzzle, he bit into me, chewed me, and spit me back out. And so badly, I wanted to hit him for it. Yet later that day, along with the only black female teacher I've ever had, shout out Miss Beecham! I confided in him, and in that quiet elementary school classroom, she told me 2 of the most important things I would ever hear. The first was that his words were not his own. But the second was that his words could never rip the colors from my skin. That my hues were given the sun that he could shine. That goes for all of us, really. We're all beautiful in ways that others can't recognize. But for a while, I couldn't come to accept that first. That it hadn't been his fault, or that I could forgive him. So to this day, I find that moment engraved in my heart. But now for a different reason. As an example of what misguidance means. It's within the irony that the same voice that says, "Oh, I love you," can also say, "I hate you, get out of my face." Right? You see, the reality is, he wasn't taught to love through his words. Many of us are. That's corny, right? No, that's connection. It's something that I think we need in this society. You see, developing empathy for others doesn't come naturally to all. But neither does developing patience. When we take a look at these silly, made-up personal dictionaries, we should emphasize language that connects us, instead of that which tries to push us further and further apart. Though we may have differences between borders and cultures, races, religions, our humanity will always relate us. And finding acceptance in the humanity of others for who they are is key to disarming narratives we let our environments create. Those same narratives trap us in webs of fear, and somehow we all fall victims to hatred of our race. The late Tupac Shakur popularized the phrase, "Be the roses that grow in the concrete." It even inspired my own. In a world set in stone with hatred, we just soak in what we're given. Nobody sits down and tells you to take notes on the correct ways to love, or the correct